threaten him too. I had a knife that I carried on me for 2 days straight because I was so terrified this guy was going to. Yet I'm very angry and bitter about the damage that being at the Poverello has done to my family and myself. A lot of things that I have to live with now, things that I've had to see. All the fights, lots and lots of fights. All the blood, all the cussing. Just the cops up there all the time. It's just lodged in my memory banks, and it does affect me. All the times I've been cussed at, or all the times my kids have. And I know it's gotten to them. It's changed us all. And I don't think it had to be like that. I just think that if people who were in charge would have been in charge and would have remembered they have a responsibility to the people that they're so-called looking over or running, however you want to put it, that they needed to be appropriate too. And they needed to show some authority and in the right way, in a positive way. I mean, there could have been a lot of different things that happened. I don't know. That's all I pretty much got to say on the situation.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Richie here. You've just seen a small portion of one of our interviews from several months ago, last April. Things haven't changed much at the POV. Become a little more obscure, a little dimmer, a little harder to find. But it's still the same. I thought it'd be a nice way to work into tonight's theme and love thy neighbor, I guess you could call it. You'll listen, you'll hear the love. Vatican City, June 15th. It was a simple feast today. John Paul invited 200 poor and homeless to dinner, as well as the volunteers who assist them in the city of Rome. Men and women with painful histories came to the Vatican this morning. Not all were Catholics. They had received the personal invitation from the Pope himself, given to them by the organizations that assist them, including Donna Maria, a home established by Mother Teresa of Calcutta. Now, I think it's interesting to insert something here. There's a brother, I forget his name, he works with the poor and the homeless back in Massachusetts. He received a lot of training working with Mother Teresa in Calcutta. And one night, in one of his moments of intimacy with God, he looked around himself and said, "God, why do you allow this to exist?" He received his answer, "I don't. Why do you?" A smiling John Paul II welcomed his guests with affection shortly after 1:30 p.m. "I wanted to meet you and share my table with you, to tell you that you are in the Pope's heart. I embrace each one of you with great affection, friends whom I so love. Although I cannot spend much time with you, I assure you that I follow you daily with my prayer and affection." Two of the diners were young women from Naples. They are between 30 and 40 years old. They spend every night in a little square near St. Peter's. When it is very cold, they are accommodated by the Missionaries of Charity in the Donna Maria home. They maintain both their dignity and their youthful beauty. However, for the volunteers assisting them, it is difficult to understand how they have both ended on the streets. The papal guests sat at tables for 13. This included 10 poor, a cardinal, bishop, or other church official, and 2 volunteer assistants. The dinner was enlivened by the rhythm of several countries, especially Latin American and Italian music. The menu for the occasion was typically Italian, fresh pasta with cheese and spinach, veal with roast potatoes, mozzarella cheese and salad, pastry, fruit salad with ice cream. Carlos Santoro of the St. Egidio community, one of the organizers of the event, recalled that this isn't the first time the Pope has organized an event of this kind. In the past, he has invited poor people to the Vatican. This occasion was extra special, however. The idea was suggested by both the volunteers who worked with the homeless as well as the Holy Father himself, who wanted to meet with the poor one day to dine with them. The Pope's gesture of sitting at the same table with these persons is not just meaningful for him and the Church, but for the whole world. He himself has encouraged families to invite a poor person on New Year's Eve. The Pope, he must have heard me. He's suggesting adopt a client in Italy. Maybe he's suggesting adopt a client in Missoula. I am. It's a great experience. Wouldn't it be wonderful if the Poverello Board of Directors could follow the Pope's example? It's not just the Pope that does this. Many church leaders throughout the world do it. It's just this was the only one I could find on the web to download. But it's happening. You know, several weeks ago, when the construction started at the Poverello, Liz Rance was showing two people, professional fundraisers, around the front of the building. One of the clients walked up to me and said, "See that lady with the glasses?" She says, "Yeah." He says, "She's the president of the board of directors." I says, "I know." His statement was, "She doesn't want anything to do with us." Liz Rance, this is how you impress the clients. Well, needless to say, I had to inform the clients, nobody on the board of directors wants anything to do with you. Everything you receive from them is tokenism. They think they're doing something. Probably underneath they realize they're not. They cannot be like the Poverello himself and embrace a leper. They're lacking something. This past Saturday, September 30th, I went to the Poverello for dinner. I love these people. I enjoy being with them. I learn a lot from them. And sometimes I get some information for these telecasts. But I was disappointed in one of the local churches. Not disappointed, maybe just plain damn mad, because this is a very frequent occurrence. What happens at the Poverello at lunchtime, many days, is they have the volunteers there that help out, homeless people, people that have nothing to do, so they come down to pitch in. They feed these people first, which is great. This is quite all right. You're there, you're helping out, but then they tell these people, you can eat by yourselves. We will not let anybody in until you are done eating. Now picture that, ladies and gentlemen. Well, better still, let's go back to when I first went to work for the Poverello. This situation was happening then. Dear Sister Ann, she came out to the dining room and said, "Why are you people eating when there's people staring in the window? These people are hungry. There are empty chairs in here." Well, it didn't really catch me much at the time. I didn't understand a whole lot about homeless people at the time, situations. But after a while, it sure made a lot of sense. Oh, eventually I would go to Larry DeGamo and say, "Larry, there's empty chairs and there's hungry people. They won't let them in." Situation would correct itself for a day. This situation would repeat itself several months later, even though this would still be happening in the meantime. Finally, it reached a point where people would say, "Richie, you're not eating." And I would say, "I'm not eating until the doors are open and the people are let in." The volunteers are beautiful people. They're good people. But they're not the only people that are hungry. Why should hungry people stare through a window to see other people eating? Well, to get back to this past Saturday, I went and I looked in the window. The dining room has a capacity of 30 people. There were 19 chairs empty at 10 minutes of 12. 19 empty chairs. 11 people were eating. I asked one of the people in line, "What's happening?" He says, "Those are the volunteers. They don't let us in until noontime." Well, here we go again. Creating conflict between the people that help and the people that don't help. Well, most of those people that don't help can't help. Wheelchair Bob. Yeah, he goes to the front of the line, but he waits until the volunteers are done. Young woman with a baby. How is she going to help? To her, the church group was saying, "Sorry, honey, you got to wait because the clock says so." I never knew people got hungry according to the clock and ate according to the clock. Well, eat according to the clock, sometimes it's okay. But when you have 7 or 8 volunteers, including children, behind a counter, food hot and ready to be served, empty chairs, and nothing's happening, there's something wrong. I would say to you people, learn how to love your neighbor. You sure didn't show much love. And you're not the only group that does this. Many groups do it. The Poverello people do it themselves sometimes during the week. I've seen that happen, as I had just mentioned. This isn't right. If the food's not ready till noontime, don't serve it till noontime. You can't do it. But if the food is ready at 11:30, 20 minutes at 12, great. Feed them. They're hungry. Go back to Scripture. The feeding of the 3,000 or 5,000. The disciples go to Jesus and say, "The people have come a long way. They are hungry." And Jesus said, "Feed them." He didn't go looking for a sundial to see what time it was. He just said, "Feed them." These people come to the Poverello. Probably a good portion of them can't tell time. They don't know what time it is. They don't own a wristwatch. What is the Poverello supposed to do? Feed them. It's one of the purposes of the Poverello. Feed the hungry. But they look at the clock first. Now, Jesus didn't say to the disciples, "Well, you guys have been with me for a long time. You've helped out quite a bit today. Go ahead and eat, and when you're done, we'll feed the rest of the people." He totally ignored the hunger that the apostles probably had. And the apostles weren't concerned about themselves. They were concerned about the people that were following Jesus. Feed them. Now, many of these people that stand in line at the Poverello, they're followers too in their own way. Probably half of them down there that can quote Scripture, can quote it better, and probably explain it better than most of the clergy, because they have nothing else to do. They read. And only about half the people who go to the Poverello have this capability. Now they teach the others too. They talk amongst themselves. And they come to the pub because they're hungry. They would like to be fed. Why do they have to wait? Why? Well, one of the reasons these people go hungry for longer than they should, if it's only 10 minutes, maybe it's a half an hour. And in the cold weather, standing outside, waiting. Let's ask these people, the board of directors. Liz Rance, will you come down and stand in line, stare in the window, and watch the people eating? Reverend Glenn Moyer, will you come down, stand in line, look through the window, and watch the people eating? Doug McClelland, will you come down, stare in the window, and watch the people eating? Maureen Edwards, will you come to the pub, stand in line, watch the people eating? Grace Lucas, will you come to the pub? You do. Grace is good. Grace works the food room 2 days a week. She's to be complimented. She only sees one side of the pub, though. There's many sides to it. Grace, will you stand in line, stare through the window, Look at the empty chairs. Watch the people eating. Maine Ann Ellingson, will you come to the park, walk through the alley, stand in line, look through the window, see empty chairs, watch people eating? Earl Reinzel, will you stare through the window and watch the people eating? Listen to the people say, we have to wait till they get through eating before we eat. Pastor David Larson, feed the hungry, stand in line, insist that they get fed. Tony Baumgartner, come on down, stand in line, look through the window, watch people eating, watch people waiting to eat. Eugene Peterson, well, Gene, you know, I've seen you down there. You do good work. I've seen you come down, I believe it's you, with the van, drop food off, behind the counter, helping out. Get on the other side of the counter. Stand in line. Look through the window. Listen to the people. Reggie Lance, come on down. Look through the window. Ask people how they feel when they see empty chairs and other people are eating, and they could be sitting in those chairs. Pastor Jim Jensen, listen to Jesus. He said, feed my people when they were hungry. He didn't say, look at the clock first. And Larry Zimmerman, come on down. Look at the clock. Look at the people. Which will tug at your heart the most? I think one of the reasons that these situations exist, and I can say that the board of directors doesn't know what they're doing. They know about a building. They don't know about people. And it's sad. They could come down, mingle with them. Clergy all over the world are doing it. This is a shame. We have 3 clergy on the board. One of them that comes down there, Gus has told you about him, Glenn Moyer, grabs his food and he goes up the front to eat. Doesn't stop to talk with them. With the other 2 pastors? I don't know. Again, the board doesn't know a whole lot. I have in front of me the draft copy of a job description for Poverello Center, position, executive director, supervisor, board of directors. One of the duties of Laurie as executive director is to develop and staff board committees. Does that sound like the tail wagging the dog? Over under job responsibilities. A performance evaluation will be deemed adequate if you have successfully completed the following. 4 items. One of them is further the development of the board as a cohesive, supportive entity with good knowledge of its responsibilities. In other words, Laurie, the executive director, has to make sure that the board has a good knowledge of its responsibilities. Now, what the heck are these people doing on the board if they don't know what their responsibilities are? Why do they even want to be on the board if they don't know what their responsibilities are? If they have to pay somebody $30,000 to $35,000 a year, among other things, to tell them what their responsibilities are. Yep, that's the tail wagging the dog. Before I close, let me jump back to last Saturday. I don't want to name the church. Maybe that further down the line I will. Maybe I'll have to. But when I asked one of the gentlemen behind the counter there, he says, isn't that the same church Liz Rance belongs to? He stopped, thought. He says, yes, sir, it is. You figure it out. Figure out what they were teaching these kids that were helping down there. These kids were doing a good job. but they don't know a whole lot about homelessness and people. But these adults from this church taught them there is a difference between homeless people. There's people you treat like kings, and there's people you treat like dirt. It was the only lesson that these kids could have learned. So, Laurie, when you further develop the board as a cohesive, supportive entity with a good knowledge of its responsibilities, please teach them how to feed the hungry. Teach them how to feed the hungry. Not make them wait and watch other people eat, but how to feed the hungry. Good night. God bless.